I gave corporate America 3 decades of my life, but it turns out the only way to really understand how bad it truly was to leave it. It's been 18 months since my layoff, and the longer I've been out, the more I can see how deeply toxic it all was. Not just the job, the career, the whole corporate structure, the system, the entire religion of productivity that I used to pray to. All of it. All of it. Back then, I was all in. I was the poster child for being a team player. I cheered during the all hands. I brought donuts to meetings, and I ran the employee engagement committee like it was the damn Justice League. Except instead of saving lives, I was coordinating potlucks and fixing company morale at midnight. I wasn't just a team player. I was a professional proof of life. I was corporate FEMA. Show up first, leave last, and smile like nothing's on fire. And for what? So I could be told I was an essential asset right before they gave me my severance check? Here's the thing. I didn't walk away from that last job with dignity. I got laid off. I was riffed. A year after my layoff, I made a video called 12 Months After Layoff, The Blunt Truth. When I watch that now, all I can think is, damn, I was actually still so polite. If I filmed that video today, I would burn everything to the ground. Because when you're still in the fog, you don't call it damage, you call it stress. The further away I get, the more I see how something doesn't have to look toxic to do real damage. It turns out the most damaging jobs don't even look toxic at all. This isn't a takedown, this is a reckoning, because some jobs don't hurt loudly, they don't leave bruises, they leave belief systems. If you've been telling yourself that it wasn't that bad, and yet you still feel broken in ways that you can't explain, we need to talk about that. Now, I talked a couple of videos ago about how job conditioning still runs my life, the lingering behaviors, but this video is different. That video was about how to spot the overfunctioning, and this one is about finally admitting the harm when I didn't even know I was hurt until much, much later. I thought leaving the job would be the end of it, that once I turned in my computer and stopped getting the Sunday scaries, the spell would break. But the spell wasn't in the career, it was in my body. Turns out the exit interview was just the prologue to the haunting. Now, I don't work in corporate America anymore. I run this YouTube channel, and my husband and I are trying to start our own plumbing company. But even now, I catch myself trying to get an A+ in things that no one is grading. I color code our plumbing spreadsheets. For who? God? The ghost of corporate past? No one's looking. I just don't know how to stop proving I'm thorough. I created a workflow document for the plumbing company, and then I made it into a PowerPoint deck. We're a team of 3. One is my husband, one is me, and the other is a pug. I rewrite a script 11 times, not because it needs it, but because I still think perfection is protection. I take on every task like someone's keeping score for a game that I just don't know how to stop playing. It's like I'm competing in the over-functioning Olympics. I coach, compete, and disqualify myself daily. I did buy my own medals, just because. At this point, half of my one-on-ones are me passing out those medals. Book a time if you're spiraling. It's oddly comforting. I'm not embarrassed because I work hard. What embarrasses me is that somewhere along the way, I started confusing overwork with safety. No boss is asking for any of this that I'm doing right now. No deadline is chasing me, but my nervous system never got the memo. People think that I'm thriving because I can look calm when everything's on fire. I get called strong, polished, so good under pressure. Like those are compliments. They're not. They're scars. When you've spent decades measuring your worth by output, it doesn't matter if the boss is gone. You'll micromanage yourself just fine. That's what stayed with me, this annoying performance instinct. It's like an unwanted souvenir from hell. It's a bobblehead. It's a bobblehead. When it nods, you can hear it whisper, synergy. I live with the belief that if I'm not proving, I'm failing. If I'm not fixing, I'm falling behind. And if I'm not pushing, I'm falling apart. That leadership instinct, it's not confidence, it's survival. It came from reading rooms, de-escalating egos, and translating chaos into PowerPoint decks. The calm? Well, that's just a hell of a lot of dissociation. That's what happens when your nervous system has been in a fire drill for 30 years. The polish, that's me editing myself in real time because I was taught that one wrong sentence could cost me my job. So every time someone tells me, you're a natural, I have to stop myself from laughing. I'm not a natural. I'm a finely tuned trauma response with a to-do list. I wasn't born with this. I was built for it by environments that only praised me when I was polished and in pain. Congratulations, you are the world's most functional hostage. The job is gone, but the performance, that part stayed. It's not about the career anymore. It's about the damage the career normalized, because what looks like competence was actually built on never feeling safe. What if the worst damage that happened to me didn't even look like damage? What if that's happening to you? Most of my jobs didn't look toxic. They looked stable. They looked responsible. They looked like what you're supposed to want. Kind of like the adult version of eating your vegetables, except your vegetables answer emails at 10 p.m. And that's what made them dangerous. When people talk about toxic jobs, they picture yelling, crying in the stairwell, and some guy named Phil melting down over a spreadsheet. There's always a Phil, isn't there? And he's always just like one pivot table away from a full collapse. But the stuff that wrecked me didn't look like a problem. It looked like initiative. It looked like reliability. It looked like handling things quietly, without help, every single time. I didn't work in one of those viral like HR nightmare jobs. I wasn't exploited on paper. I had benefits. I had good reviews. I had coworkers who sent me burnout memes while we all slowly died inside. We were basically a support group with matching anxiety meds and expired PTO. So every time I felt that pit in my stomach, right, I told myself that it was just stress. It was temporary, fixable. It's my fault for not handling it better. Like maybe if I drank more water and downloaded a productivity app, I'd stop fantasizing about getting into minor car accidents so I could miss work. Because if the job is good, you assume that the problem must be you. You think that maybe you're just sensitive, that maybe your stress threshold is just too low. Maybe you need to work on your mindset. But it's not your mindset, hun. It's the thousands of tiny ways that you learn to ignore yourself just to keep the peace. High performance is often just high tolerance for self-abandonment. And once you learn to abandon yourself, you don't just do it at work. You do it everywhere, at brunch, on weekends, in text messages that start with, "No worries if you can't, but..." The good jobs, they're sneaky. They don't ask you to quit your boundaries all at once. They just reward you for softening them. They call it teamwork. They call it reliability. They hand you a gold star every time you abandon yourself just a little bit faster. Until one day, there's no self left, just a calendar and a reputation. They celebrate how fast you fold and they call it culture. And when you leave, you don't rage, you rationalize. You defend the place like it's your ex who didn't mean it. You write them a thank you note for the trauma and call it growth. You act like Stockholm Syndrome is just cross-functional empathy and it's a part of your professional development. Next thing you know, you're sending them a Christmas card and asking if they've healed from the emotional labor of laying you off. Because they weren't that bad, were they? They were so nice. You got so much out of that experience. What you really got was rewired. And now that I'm out of it, I still catch myself overperforming and bracing for judgment that never comes. And no, it's not just corporate. It's not just capitalism. This shows up in classrooms, in hospitals, nonprofits, in your Etsy side hustle. It's not just burnout. It's programming. I left the career, but the job didn't leave me. It's still here in the way that I work, the way that I rest, and the way that I brace for feedback. And getting out of the job didn't break it. It just showed me how much of my personality was built in survival mode. Here's the thing. When people ask what I got out of my career, I can list a few things. Some skills. I've got some good stories, a LinkedIn profile that looks good, and a killer resume. But let's talk about what that cost me. It cost my health because my body learned that resting is suspicious, that if you take a breath, someone might take your badge. It cost my relationships because I didn't just miss birthdays and dinners. I missed whole years of being someone who actually had the capacity to care. I lost the version of me who wasn't measuring affection in Outlook availability. It cost my self-trust because I started thinking that my value was in how much I could carry without complaint. And when I collapsed, people didn't rush in. They actually backed away. Like I broke the illusion and I made it awkward. Because that's what the system teaches you. Perform strength or disappear. And the worst part is I thought that I was lucky. I thought that I had it good because nobody screamed at me and I was trusted to manage my time as long as I never actually took any off. Ironically, safety isn't what my career gave me. Safety is what I gave up to stay employed. I gave up boundaries. I gave up questions. I gave up the ability to say I'm not okay without feeling like I just handed in my resignation. That's not ambition. That's adaptation. And that's what I'm still trying to unlearn. Because for the first time in my adult life, I've had space to figure out who I am without a job title attached to it. No company values to memorize, no performance goals to contort myself around. Just me, unlearning, unpacking, and rebuilding a life that actually fits. Because the career has ended, but the damage stays. I haven't had a performance review in 18 months, but I still rehearse fake answers in the shower like someone's gonna show up and ask me about my quarterly goals. But here's the part that I couldn't see when I was still in it. You are allowed at any age and in any job to stop performing pain as professionalism. I think now I finally feel free enough to figure out who I actually am and what I want to be when I grow up. No script, no scorecard, a lot less panic. Now you think you're free because you quit the job, but the job trained you to flinch, hustle, and people please like it's a love language. And now you do it automatically because it feels so damn familiar. Just FYI, that's not your work ethic. That is behavioral conditioning dressed up as professionalism. And it's showing up in places that you never expected. Let's dive into it right here.